everyone, welcome back. In this video, we will be working on 2017 Gauss Contest Grade 7 Part B, which is question 11 to question 20. So let's get it started. Question 11. The number that goes into the square blank to make 3 over 7 is equal to blank over 63 is. So we can see that we multiply 9 to the denominator, which means we need to do the same operation to the numerator, which would give us 27. Question 12. At the Gaussian store, puzzles cost $10 each, or $50 for a box of 6 puzzles. If a customer would like exactly 25 puzzles, what is the minimum possible cost? So we have two plans here. We have the first plan is to purchase puzzles individually for $10 each, and we can buy 6 puzzles in a bundle for $50. So we can see that in the second plan, each box is worth, we need to pay 50 over 6 for each puzzle in the second plan, which if we convert it into a fraction, it would be roughly about $5.3. So we can see this is actually cheaper than the first plan, $10 each. So we want to maximize the amount of boxes we buy. So let's see how many boxes can we buy for these 25 puzzles we want to buy. So we can use that divided by 6, and we will get 4 remainder 1. So which means we can buy 4 sets of 6 puzzles in a bundle with 1 extra, and we need to buy this 1 extra individually. So at the end, we would pay 4 boxes of puzzles, which is 4 times $50, plus this 1 extra box. We will purchase this individually, which is $10. So in the end, we would have $20 to $30. Question 13. When the shaded triangles shown is translated, which of the following triangles can be obtained? So if some shape is translated, the shape and its orientation will not be changed, which means that the shape before translation and after translation are congruent. So in this case, this D would be in the same shape and orientation as the shaded triangle, which means D would be the only possibility that would be the end result of the translation performed on a shaded triangle. Question 14. When the time in Toronto, Ontario is 1 p.m., the time in Gander is 2:30 p.m. A flight from Toronto to Gander takes 2 hours and 50 minutes. If the flight departs at 3 p.m. Toronto time, what time will the flight land in Gander time? So for those people who travel a lot, this wouldn't be a hard question. But we need to recognize right away that the time difference between the two local times are 1.5 hours apart. So if we depart at 3 p.m. Toronto time, and the flight takes 2 hours and 50 minutes, we would end up with 5:50 Toronto time when we arrive. And if we translate this into Gander time, we would just simply plus 130 to that, which is 680, and which is 7:20 p.m. Gander time. Option A would be correct. Question 15. 5 students ran a race. Ryan was faster than Henry and Fez. Henry was slower than Fez. Toma was faster than Ryan but slower than Omar. Which student finished fourth? So we can see that R is faster than both H and F, but we don't know the specific order for Henry and Fez. Henry was slower than Fez, so we can rearrange this to make this F is faster than H. Toma was faster than R, which means T is somewhere here, but slower than Omar, so O is even faster than Toma, which means this would be the order of the students. And we are looking for the students who finished fourth, so this is the fastest and this is the slowest. So we can start counting. The first place, Omar, Tomar, Ryan, and Fez. So the answer would be F. Question 16. A circular spinner is divided into 20 equal sections as shown. An arrow is attached to the center of the spinner. The arrow is spun once. What is the probability that the arrow stops in section containing a number that is a divisor of 20? So we can start by listing them out. We would have 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. So among the 20 numbers, we have 6 favorable outcomes. We would have 6 numbers that we want the arrow to land in. So the probability would be E, 6 over 20, although it's not simplified, but that's our only option. Question 17. The mean, which is the average of the 4 integers 78, 83, 82, and x is 80, which one of the following statements is true? So as we know that for average questions, we can always follow this formula. So number of entities times the mean of a data set equal to the sum of those entities. So if we put this into this particular case, we have 4 numbers, their mean is 80. So there's the sum of all these 4 numbers would be 320. And this 320 would be simply equal to 78 plus 83 plus 82 and x. So we can solve this equation and get x would be equal to 77. So we can see that 77 is actually 3 less than the mean, which means option D would be correct. Question 18. Sarah goes to a bookstore and wants to buy a book that is originally priced at $100. Which of the following options gives her the best discounted price? So we first have a discount of 20%, so it would end up with $80. B, a discount of 10%, so at this point, so we would have a discount of 10%, so we would have $90. Then a discount of 10% of the new price, so it's 10% of $90, which is $9. So we would use $90, which is the new price, minus the new discount, which would give us a 81%. So this would be the price we need to pay for option B. Option C, a discount of 75%, which will give us a $75. Then a discount of 5% of the new price, which means we're subtracting 5% of the $75 off of the $70. So this, first let's calculate 5% times $75, which will give us 3.75. So that would be the, I think I made a mistake here. So if it's a discount of 15%, we would actually have $85. So this is actually 5% of $85, which would roughly be around $4.25. So now we can subtract the $4.25 from the new price, $85, which would give us $81.25. Option 3, a discount of 5%, so we would have $95 at this point. Then the discount of 15% off of the new price, so which is 15% of 95%, which is $14.25. So if we want to find the new price, the discounted price, we would use $95 minus $14.25, which is the discounted price, and we would have $80.75. And then all 4 options above give the same price, which is clearly wrong. And then we are looking for the best discounted price, which is the lowest possible price that we can pay, which is option A, $80. Question 19. 2 sheets of 11 centimeter times 8 centimeter paper are placed on top of each other, forming an overlapping 8 centimeter times 8 centimeter square in the center as shown, the area of rectangle WXYZ is. So we can see that this length right here is 11 centimeter, and the width of these these two are 8 centimeter. And this, since it's also the length of the rectangle, one of the rectangles, so it's 11 centimeter as well. So we can see that actually we also have that the middle square, this is 8 centimeter, which means that this and this would be equal to 3 centimeter, which is obtained from 11 minus 8. So the area of rectangle WXYZ would be equal to the area the area of one of the rectangles plus the extra small rectangle right here. So the area would be equal to the one of the original rectangles, which is 11 times 8, plus this extra, which is 3 times 8. So we would have 88 plus 24, which is 112 centimeters squared. And finally, we would have question 20. Betty and Anne are walking around a rectangular park with dimensions 600 meter by 400 meters as shown. They both begin at the top left corner of the park and walk at constant but different speeds. Betty walks in a clockwise direction and Anne walks in a counterclockwise direction. Points P, Q, R, S, T divide the bottom edge of the park into 6 segments of equal length. When Betty and Anne meet for the first time, they are between Q and R. So they are somewhere in between here. Which of the following could be the ratio of Betty's speed to Anne's speed? So since they're in between Q and R, so we first can calculate the distance between each of the little segments. So since points P, Q, R, S, T divide the bottom edge of the park into 6 segments of equal length, each of which has length 600 divided by 6, which is equal to 100 meters. If Betty and Anne had met for the first time at point Q, because they can be anywhere in between Q and R, so let's start from the leftmost point, then Betty would have walked a total of, so it's something like this. Betty would walk a total of 600 centimeter plus 400 centimeter plus 4 times 100, which is 1400 meters. And Anne would have walked a total distance of 400 plus 2 times 100, which is 600 meters. Because Anne walks this way and Betty walks this way. So their distance can be calculated respectively. When they met, the time that Betty has been walking is equal to the time that Anne has been walking. And so the ratio of Betty's speed to Anne's speed is equal to the ratio of the distance that Betty has walked to the distance that Anne has walked. Why is this? Because we can write a simple, because we always want to use distance is equal to speed times time. So if we are looking at this, we can see that the distance that Betty walked would be equal to the speed of Betty times 10 time that it takes Betty to walk. And then we would have N, which is distance of N would be equal to speed of N times 10 times of N. However, we just talked about that the time of these two are exactly the same. So let me write this out again. So as we know that the time of time it took Betty and Anne to walk their respective length are the same. So if we want to so we can say that the velocity of B or the speed of B is equal to distance of Betty over T of B, and the speed of N would be equal to distance that N walked over time it took N to walk. which means that if we are looking for the ratio of their speed, Betty's speed over n speed would be equal to dB over TB over dA over TA. And then we can write it out this way. It's dB over TB divided by this fraction. It's keep change flip. And since these two are the same, so they can cancel out each other, so we would have dB over dA. So we can see that the ratio of their speed is exactly the same as the ratio of their distance. So now we can come back. And so if they met the first time at point B, the ratio of their speeds would be the ratio of their distance, 1400 to 600, which is essentially 14 over 6, 14 to 6, or 7 to 3. Similarly, if we look at if they met for the first time at point R, Betty would have walked a distance of, so this is one of the scenario, and then we have the second scenario, where B would walk a total distance of 600 plus 400 plus 3 times 100, which is equal to 1300 meters, and N would be walking with a distance of 400 plus 3 times 100 would be equal to 700 meters. So then their ratio of speed would be equal to the ratio of their distance, which is 1300 to 700, which is 13 to 7. So we must determine which of the 5 given answers is a ratio that is less than this ratio but greater than this ratio, because they end up in between point Q and R. One way to do this is to convert each ratio into a mixed fraction. So if we do that, we would have that, or we can interchangeably convert all of these ratios into a decimal number if you want, and we would end up with option B, because ratio 9 to 4 is the only ratio that is less than 7 to 3 but greater than 13 to 7. Thank you for watching.